5 2
Ladies and gentlemen, an enthusiastic good afternoon to one and all. I'm Malak Muhammad, and it's my immense honor to be your host for today, and welcome you all to Technical Summit 2020. In all applications of science, we're always uncertain about where it will lead us, and in today's talk, our speakers will answer the question of whether pharma technology is a construction or a destruction. Please help me welcome Yara Said, Digital Lead at Roche. Muhammad Rafat, Marketing and Digital Chapter Head at Roche, as they present today's talk.
Thank you, Malak, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today. Like Malak was just saying, احنا النهارده we want to answer a very simple yet deep question. In pharma technology, is it a disruption or a construction? But before we move into answering this question, let's take a step back كده ونبتدي نبص على ال healthcare industry in terms of the digital adoption scale. How are we doing? Rafat, can you give us your insights كده about this question?
Thank you very much. طيب لو بصينا where does الفارما اندستري او الهيلث كير از هول اندستري لايز على الحته بتاعت الديجيتال ادوبشن سكيل، هنلاقي السكيل ده from 1 to 10 سكيل. هنلاقي ان اكتر حاجه عندنا هي communication technology هي out of 10 or 10 while ان الجلوبال اندستري افريج عباره عن 6 at 6 بالظبط، وهنلاقي ان الهيلث كير اندستري at 3 ده جلوبال. اوكي، فتخيلوا معايا ان احنا at 3 مفيش حاجه قبلينا غير الاجريكلتشر on the global level الهيلث كير تك او الهيلث تك. طيب لو بصينا على مصر، تفتكروا مصر لو حطيناها على السكيل ده هتبقى كام؟ فارما او ديجيتال هيلث 1 حد يزود؟ الحقيقه ما عنديش اجابه يعني، بس هو فور شور مش اكتر من 2 او 1. ويجي بعد كده السؤال الطبيعي، التطور الطبيعي لللوجيكال ثينكينج واحنا بنفكر في الحته دي. هو طول الوقت اي حد في الحته بتاعت الهيلث كير بيفكر ليه احنا متاخرين كده؟ رغم ان الحته دي فيها كم انفستمنت غير طبيعي، وفيها somehow اي حاجه يعني اؤمر فتطاع زي ما بنقول، بس رغم كده ستيل احنا بعيد قوي عن كل حاجه. ليه؟ ممكن تقول لنا يا رب
مش موجوده، فهم مش شايفين النيد دي، وفي الاخر it's a lose-lose situation. طيب is it only challenges? No. احنا we see a lot of opportunities بالنسبه لنا كمان في مصر عشان نبتدي نتحرك اكتر والادوبشن بتاعنا يعلى على الديجيتال ادوبشن سكيل. ف one of the most important things that we believe هتزق الماركت ده كله وهتفورسه كله towards the digital adoption is the universal health insurance project اللي I'm sure اغلبنا سمع عنه. البروجكت ده هيخلينا كلنا رايحين towards the digitalization، رايحين towards انه لازم يكون في EMR زي ما سمعنا الصبح في السيشن، يبقى في artificial intelligence و data driven solution تحرك الايكو سيستم. بالنسبه لمصر كمان احنا عندنا حاجه يعني very positive، هي when it comes to the digital the health tech احنا اكبر حد موجود في المانا ريجن كلها، and in terms of startups عامه مصر هي الفاستست growing. last but not least البانديميك اللي احنا عايشين فيه دلوقتي كلنا مع بعض، we believe انه ده حاجه triggered الاندستريز كلها
وانها الفارما انا قلقان على فكره
وانها الفارما انها تتحرك فوق. طيب ده كده an overview على ال opportunities وال challenges للاندستري كلها، بس since ان احنا we are representatives to a pharma company واحنا كنا لسه بنتكلم انه pharma companies they have a lot of needs، والحته دي رأفت can you zoom in كده شويه على ايه ممكن تكون النيدز بتاعه الفارما companies؟
اوكي. بصراحه الفارما كومبانيز عندها مشكله اكبر بكتير من الهيلث كير، ان الفارما كومبانيز للاسف هي على السكيل بتاع الديجيتال بعيده قوي. هو لو في حاجه قبل الواحد انا بتهيألي كان المفروض كل الفارما كومبانيز تبقى موجوده، وانا بكلمكم على مستوى جلوبال مش على مستوى مصر. على مستوى مصر طبعا صباح الفل. فلو جينا بصينا ايه هي المين تشالنجز اللي احنا كفارما اندستري بنواجهها، هنلاقي ان اول حاجه هي ان احنا كهيلث كير ما عندناش كوميونتي. تخيلوا النهارده اللي قدامكم ده بوست حد حاطه بيتكلم ان ابنه عنده حاجه في جلده في وشه، وحطه على بيج اسمها جت في السوسته. حد عارف البيج؟ في حد هنا عارف البيج؟ كم واحد يعرف؟ اوكي. طيب اما الواحد بتحصل له حاجه غير الكورونا، لان الكورونا somehow حطت ماركت للقصه دي، بس قبل الكورونا خلينا نتكلم، لو حد عنده مشكله بيحطها على ايه؟ بيحطها على جت في السوسته، على بيج ثانيه اسمها حد يعرف، حاجات زي كده. والبوست اللي تحت ده واحد عايز يشتري تشارجر لعربيته. دخل على مرسيدس بنز لافرز في مصر، الحاجه الفيري سبيسيفيك لحاجته، وعرف يلاقيها. لكن لما جت في اخر حاجه عنده اللي هي صحه ابنه، دخل على حاجه عامه جدا. انا مش بتكلم على السوشيال ميديا بس، انا بتكلم ان احنا ككوميونتي، احنا كهيلث كير ما عندناش كوميونتي، مفيش حاجه اسمها كوميونتي، احنا كل واحد شغال في سايلو لوحده. تاني حاجه هي التارجتنج والسيجمنتيشن او الداتا بيست تارجتنج وسيجمنتيشن اللي الفارما كومبانيز فيه النهارده، سواء في حته السيجمنتيشن بتاعت البيشنتس او في حته السيجمنتيشن بتاعت الفيزيشنز، عامل بالظبط زي شركات الكوميونيكيشن من 20 سنه. حد شايف اللوجو بتاع كليك وموبينيل؟ في ناس كتيره هنا ممكن ما تكونش حضرت الموضوع ده، يعني الواحد ابتدى يبقى
احنا عجزنا شويه
يبقى عجوز شويه. بس اول ما موبينيل وكليك دخلوا مصر كانوا بيعملوا سيجمنتيشن للناس عن طريق حاجتين بس، ايه هما؟ بريبيد وبوست بيد. وبعدين ساعه ما بقوا يعني خطار قوي وبيسيجمنتوا قوي، ابتدى البوست بيد يعملوا كوربريت واندفيدوالز وبس. وطبعا دلوقتي الموضوع اتغير لدرجه ان بقى الباقه اللي بيستخدم PUBG وبينام على رجله الشمال بقيت اعرف اعمل له حاجه سبيسيفيكلي اكوردنج للداتا والورث اوف داتا اللي بقت عندهم. طب احنا في الفارما كومباني احنا عاملين بالظبط زي الشركات دي من 20 سنه. بنقسم الدكاتره بكبده وفشه وكده لحد دلوقتي لحد يومنا هذا. وفي نفس الوقت البيشنتس بتاعتنا ما بنعرفش نوصل لها. تخيلوا ان انا مثلا شركه ادويه عندي دواء للصدفيه، وفي عيان بيخش يكتب على جوجل علاج جديد للصدفيه وانا مش عارف اوصل له. او يا ريتني مش عارف اوصل له، دي حاجه كويسه، انا مش عارفه اصلا. فتاني مشكله عندنا هي الحته بتاعت داتا بيس تارجتنج اند سيجمنتيشن. تالت مشكله عندنا الراجل السبعيناتي الجميل اللي انتوا شايفينه لابس بدله ده، الراجل بتاع السيلز ده. احنا الطريقه 90% من الفارما كومبانيز they are promoting their products عن طريق البيرسونال سيلينج في سنه 2020. حاجه طبعا يعني انا بتهيألي لو احنا جبنا واحد في سنه 80 وقلنا له متخيل الدنيا عامله ازاي في 2020 هيقول 20 حاجه ومش هيتخيل ان ده لسه هيبقى موجود. فستيل احنا ما عندناش alternative للبروموشن والادفرتايزنج ينفع ان احنا نستخدمه يبقى efficient enough. اخر حاجه هي البيرسوناليزد هيلث كير. البيرسوناليزد هيلث كير هو ازاي انا اقدر استخدم الداتا من اول ما العيان بيجي لي او بيعمل برزنتيشن لحد الحته بتاعه المانجمنت، وازاي اقدر انترفير بالديفرنت تايبس اوف داتا كولكتورز من الويرابلز من وتخيلوا تشالنج كبير قد ايه في مصر. فاصلا عندنا حاجات في مصر او حاجات مستشفيات حكوميه ما فيهاش اصلا هاردويرز. يعني انا بتكلم في حاجه بقى يعني ستيناتي. فطبعا التشالنج كبيره جدا في الحته دي. وفروم ذات يعني هروح تاني ليارا. عايز اسال سؤال. انا دلوقتي كستارت اب عرفت ان احنا في الفارما كومبانيز عندنا كل المشاكل دي. اعمل ايه؟ وازاي ممكن ابارتنر؟ انا عندي حل حلو قوي هيخلص الناس من كل المشاكل اللي عندك دي. اروح فين واعمل ايه؟ وايه التايب اوف بارتنرشيبس اللي ممكن اخش فيه؟
هو الحقيقه there are a lot of partnership models اللي ممكن يحصل فيها fit ما بين الستارت ابس والكوربريتس، وكلها في الاخر بتريفولف عند شركات الدواء حوالين البيشنت. هو is the end user لينا في الاخر. اي حاجه that will impact the quality of life بتاعت البيشنت، اي حاجه that will impact البيشنت journey to make it better, to enhance it, to improve the quality of life, definitely دي حاجه احنا كفارما companies هنبقى مهتمين بيها. ف the partnership models يعني are a lot، بس خليني highlight يعني ال key main things that can happen. They can start from a sponsorship مثلا to a certain activity, moving انه providing a certain service. يعني corporate يتعامل مع startup as a service provider, moving grant. دلوقتي a lot of companies بقى عندها innovation labs وبتقدم grants للستارت that have solutions that really impact the patient lives. Moving بقى يعني للمودلز اللي ممكن تكون more robust عن كده زي الجوينت فينتشرز او الاكوزيشنز. ولو هتكلم على روش globally احنا recently we have يعني acquired a number of startups، ودايما يعني حاطين عينينا على اللي موجود في الماركت وmonitoring what's happening. فلو فيكم حد سمع مثلا عن My Sugar app which used to be a diabetes community, this was a startup that was acquired by Roche. في كمان Flat Iron a real world data linking بالحته اللي كان رأفت بيتكلم عليها، وازاي انه البيشنت جيرني تبقى كلها data driven وfueled by data to improve it and make it even better. That's another thing. فده اللي بيحصل عندنا on the global level. طيب locally بقى احنا بنعمل ايه؟ في روش مصر احنا مهتمين جدا بالجزء ده، ومهتمين ان احنا يبقى لينا presence ويبقى لينا presence قوي. This is why we are thrilled to be here with you in this summit عشان نبتدي ان احنا نتعرف عليكم وتعرفونا، نتكلم مع بعض اكتر. احنا anything that can impact the patient's life is definitely number one for us. كمان within the upcoming months احنا هيكون عندنا hackathon in which we will be inviting a lot of startups عشان يبتدوا يفكروا معانا في opportunities والchallenges اللي عند patients عندنا في الماركت. ف definitely يعني this is an open invitation لأي حد interested. بس before بقى I stop here، عايزة ارجع تاني لأول البرزنتيشن عشان رأفت انت اشتغلت لنا وما جاوبتش على السؤال. Is it a disruption or a construction?
Actually يعني هو سؤال صعب ومفيش حاجة like يمين أو شمال بالظبط. هي لو جينا بصينا على كل اللي احنا كنا بنقوله قبل كده it's more about construction. احنا محتاجين نبني كل حاجة في الماركت من أول وجديد، أو محتاجين مفيش infrastructure، مفيش فمحتاجين كل ده يتبني من أول وجديد. بس ده الفكر الطبيعي بتاعنا. لو جينا نفكر بالحته الاكسبوننشال I think ان احنا محتاجين الريل disruptive solution يودينا كلنا للحته دي اسرع ما احنا متخيلين واسرع من البلانز بتاعتنا وماتش مور convenient لينا. فI'll go for disruption. Actually مش ده كان البلان يعني ان احنا نقوله، بس يعني لو تسالوني انا من جوه it's disruption. لو عايزين اجابه نموذجيه it's more about كده وكده، محتاجه الاثنين. بس الحقيقه ان احنا محتاجين فعلا disruption ياخدنا كلنا من ايدينا كده يودينا، لان لو ما حصلش disruption solution حقيقي احنا مش هنروح. from that احنا نسيب اخر 5 دقايق لو اي حد عنده اسئله او حد من الناس اونلاين عندهم اسئله.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. كنت حابب أسأل عيا ومستر محمد، هل روش بتفوكس أكتر على just patients والend user B2C؟ هل عندكم توجه إن انتوا support ستارت اب بتشتغل B2B مع الهوسبيتالز مع pharmaceutical companies مع distributors and so on؟
Thank you very much. هعيد سؤالك عشان اتاكد ان انا فهمته كويس. هل احنا الابيتايت بتاعتنا فور انفستمنت او فور سبونسرشيب بس مجرد هي B2C يعني للبيشنتس بس، ولا لو في حاجه B2B احنا we're willing ان احنا نبقى part of it؟ والاجابه يمكن يارا كان قصدها ان احنا الابيتايت بتاعتنا جامده جدا اي حاجه ليها دعوه بالبيشنتس. احنا مش بنتكلم ان هي تبقى دايركت للبيشنتس. في الاخر لو احنا بنتكلم مثلا على حاجه hospital management system مثلا let's say في الاخر ده هيأفكت البيشنتس. فاي حاجه هتأفكت البيشنت تخلي البيشنت حياته اسهل وحياته احسن ويتعالج احسن، احنا we're willing ان احنا نبقى part of it. جاوبت على سؤالك؟ ممكن مايك يلا اوعى تدينا خلينا انا اجاوب بس مايك.
شايفين سوق الادويه رايح فين الفتره اللي جايه بعد ما يعني، او شايفين ان في تشالنج من ورا ان مصر تتحول للبريسكريبشن فري، لان لازم يصرف الدواء بالبريسكريبشن ده يقلل شويه الفوليومز والتنشن من وجهه نظر الشركات. يعني شايفين ان ده تشالنج ولا الحاله اللي احنا موجودين فيها دي بتبقى افضل بالنسبه للشركات؟
وبصراحه ده سؤال في الصميم قوي، وطبعا في ناس هنا يعني ممكن تجاوب احسن مني، في سويلم وفي عمرو وفي شرابيه وريم عدل، بس هجاوب يعني بالنيابه عنكم. هو في الاخر الفيصل ايه؟ الفيصل ان انا عندي عيانين موجودين وسوق الدواء بيكبر، يعني number of patients بيكبر. فطول ما انا عندي العيانين موجودين وعندي القوة الشرائية موجودة، فمهما حصل في الاخر at the end التطور الطبيعي هيبقى عندي لازم الماركت هيفضل يكبر زي ما هو. والماركت المصري بيتميز ان هو ماركت من الماركت اللي بتكبر وبقالها حبة حلوين بتكبر، يعني ما بتهيأليش الموضوع ده في اي حاجة هتغيره. بس ممكن يبقى اللعبة هتتغير شوية لو انا فاهم سؤال حضرتك صح. ممكن الطريقة اللي احنا بنشتغل بيها كلنا هتتغير، واحنا محتاجين كلنا الفترة اللي جاية نبقى فلكسبل، لان محدش عارف ايه اللي بيحصل. احنا في يوم وليلة كلنا قعدنا في بيتنا وكلنا بقينا بنستخدم الزوم وكل حاجة بتتغير في ثانية. فهل الماركت هيصغر؟ انا ما بتهيأليش الماركت هيصغر، وده رأيي انا الشخصي. بس اللعبة معاييرها هتتغير. ده شورت انسر سؤال حضرتك. باقي دقيقة؟ ممكن ناخد اخر كويستشن ليارا. انا مش هسيب المايك بتاعي.
السلام عليكم، انا اسلام صديق. الليجل ايشوز بالنسبه للداتا دي وقفت معايا جدا.
وقفت معانا كلنا.
يعني الاب محتاج داتا عشان يتعلم، يعني كماشين ليرنينج او اي اي يشتغل، ما فيش حد بيديله داتا.
صح. طيب انا هقول لحضرتك حاجه. هو خلينا اول نتكلم على القوانين القوانين دلوقتي حالا بتخلص، واللي احنا فاهمينه ان في خلال من شهر لشهرين هتبقى قوانين الداتا كلها خلصت. بتهيألي سؤال حضرتك ليه دعوه بحته ان احنا الجهات الحكوميه مش ما بترضاش تدي الداتا بتاعتها، ولا حضرتك بتتكلم عموما الداتا كعموما؟ كعموما. اوكي. حضرتك بتتكلم عن الحته بتاعت الماشين ليرنينج في الراديولوجي. بس في حاجات ثانيه، يعني مثلا في زي دلني مثلا من الحاجات اللي عارفين يعملوا بارتنرشيب مع حاجات ثانيه، يعني مع مستشفيات وعارفين يجيبوا حاجه زي كده. الصعوبه بتيجي بس في الحته بتاعت ازاي اخد الداتا من مستشفيات حكوميه. لكن لو حضرتك بتتكلم عموما بتهيألي حضرتك الموضوع محتاج شويه بارتنرشيب، تبتدي كبارتنرشيب مع حاجات مستشفيات خاصه او معامل خاصه او كده. وبالنسبه للحته بتاعه القانون، فهو القانون المفروض ان هو على حسب ما احنا موعودين في خلال شهرين ان هو يبقى موجود ويفعل ان شاء الله باذن الله يعني. سيبا.
كده time's up. يعني again thank you so much everybody for joining us today. It's an honor and a pleasure. Looking forward بقى to getting to know you ان شاء الله في بقية السنة. Thank you.
Thank you very much. واحنا موجودين لحد يوم الاثنين لو حد عايز يبقى مع بعض، يعني شرفنا ان احنا نمنج الموضوع. سيدي.
Wow. Thank you so much for shedding a light on such an important gap. As we've been speaking, digitalization and technology have been taking over each and every aspect of our life. And to lead the way and show us some answers, we're honored to welcome CEO of Enver Medical, Shady Wahba, to discuss the health system of the future. Please give him a big round of applause.
Hello everyone. أنا كنت عامل حسابي إن أنا هعمل البرزنتيشن دي بالإنجليزي، بس شكلي هتكلم عربي بقى من الناس كلها. طيب أنا هبدأ بسؤال. What is the first sign of civilization؟ إيه أول علامة للحضارة دي؟ حد عنده أي فكرة؟ تنظيم. إيه تاني؟ طيب. السؤال ده لما اتسالته مارجريت ميد الانثروبولوجيست المشهوره، قالت ان اول علامه للسيفلايزيشن is a broken and then healed human. وكان وجهه نظرها ببساطه ان اي حد في الزمن دوت لما كان الليد اتكسر خلاص مش هيعرف ياكل، وهتيجي البريدتورز تاكله. انتهى. بس ده اول علامه ان كان في حاجه اسمها هيلر، حد بياخد باله منها. في دكتور. ومن ساعه البدايه ديت الحضارات كانت بتتقاس بالتولز اللي احنا نقدر نديها للدكاتره. لان التولز ديت هي اللي بتخلي العالم اصح. civilization شغاله. ولو بصينا لحضارتنا المصريه العظيمه، if you look at معبد زي كومومبو هتلاقوا ان السيرجري التولز اللي احنا بنستخدمها لغايه النهارده كانت انفنتد ساعتها. ده حتى كان عندهم بروستاتكس، لقوا في موميا في سنه 2000 ان كان في موميا رجليها مكسوره ودي هاد بروستاتيك فور. وعشان كده كانت حضاره عظيمه. مع الوقت ومع التطور الكبير للتكنولوجي ومع التطور الكبير للتولز بدا ان الهيلينج بروسيس بقت اسهل. بس ظهرت مشكله ثانيه. المشكله الثانيه ان بقى في شورتج كبير جدا في الفيزيشنز، عدد الناس بتزيد جدا بس عدد الفيزيشنز still the same. It's about 1.56 per thousand patient globally. عندنا هنا في الميدل ايست it's about 0.4 physician per thousand patients. قليل جدا. وده طبعا ادى الى ان بقى في طوابير كتير جدا. Average time is about 3 hours in for an emergency وفي الاخر خالص الدكتور ما يقدرش يقعد يعيط اكثر من 10 دقائق مع المريض. طبعا ده نتيجته نتائج اقتصاديه سيئه جدا. ان بقى الكوست بتاعت كل الفيزيتس اللي مالهاش لازمه about $10 billion per year ده per USA. وطبعا الانشورنس والبيرز عشان بيدفعوا الحاجات دي اضطروا ان هم يعلوا البريميومز بتاعتهم. بس احنا لو فكرنا في المشكله دي مش مشكله تولز، هي مشكله انترفيس. ازاي الدكتور والمريض بيتعاملوا. طول الزمن لازم انت لما بتعيا بتروح للدكتور اللي عنده بيكشف عليك بيديك الدواء بيعمل لك ايه. بس دوت ما ينفعش. لغايه ما ظهر التول انا I think one of the best tools that we invented. ده تيليدوك. زي ما انتم شايفين دي فكره كانت موجوده من الخمسينات. بس كان في مشكله كبيره جدا في التكنولوجيا. وفي الكالتشر نفسها. ازاي تخلي البيشنت يحس ان انا لما اقابل الدكتور فيرتشوالي هياخد نفس الكواليتي اوف كير. وازاي تقنع الدكاتره اللي هم ما بياخدوش على الحاجات الجديده بسهوله يعملوا كده. بس جه البانديميك واجبرنا كلنا نتعلم الكلام ده واجبر الناس كلها تشتغل بيه. بس الاول تعالوا نديفاين يعني ايه telemedicine. Telemedicine is not only like the video call or the chat, it's the exchange of all the information من البيشنت للدكتور عشان يقدر يديه diagnosis كويس. في الكوفيد بس until this moment in time في about 900 plus million telemedicine cases. بس بعد كده اكتشفوا ان ده بيوفر فلوس كتير. It can save up to $1,500 per episode. You can do the math. It's billions saved. فهو ده التغيير بتاع الكالتشر ان هو حصل حقيقة ورا ان البيشنتس والدكتورز can use that. ورا payers ان they can save money. So telemedicine is not going anywhere. This is a change that will keep going. علشان كده احنا في 2018 انا وماي كوفاوندر دكتور محمد الشاذلي وستارتنج الكومباني اسمها امبر ميديكال. I had more weight at that time. بس كانت الفكره كلها ان احنا عايزين نعمل تولز تكنولوجيكال تولز تقدر تخلي الهيلث كير مور efficient. وبدانا بالتليميديسن وقررنا ساعتها ان احنا نشوف ايه المشاكل اللي موجوده ونحاول نحلها. نادرس exactly what's wrong with the tools there and we can try to solve it. فحطينا 3 مشاكل. اول حاجه معظم التولز اللي كانت موجوده كانت very hard to use. لما تجيب واحد بيستخدم كل يوم الفيسبوك والانستجرام كل ده تقول له استخدم حاجه زي ابل او سيرنر او الحاجات اللي هي معقده جدا they will never do it. تاني حاجه there is 5 or 6 tools that the doctors rely on و 5 or 6 tools others that doctors that patients rely on فبيزهقوا. ف you have to make it as comprehensive as possible بالذات في مكان زي مينا اللي اصلا الديجيتال انفراستراكشر بتاعه is not that strong. وفاينلي طبعا it has to be affordable. وتارجتنا المينا عشان many reasons بس اهم reasons ان كل الناس عندها انترنت. Everybody is the average is less than 60 years old for everybody is tech savvy. الناس كلها بتتكلم نفس اللانجوج. And for the doctor side, building their own clinics is really expensive. So they would like something like that, like a virtual care. الحمد لله بعد ما بدأنا احنا بدأنا في ديسمبر 2019 so less than a year until now. كان عندنا very good testimonials من doctors and patients. حسينا ان it was critical for us to exist في وقت الكورونا ده. A lot of people said that we helped them a lot. A lot of doctors said that it was very nice لما قفلوا clinics فقدروا يستخدموا التولز بتاعتنا. وفي خلال السنه دي احنا وصلنا ل about 80,000 داونلود على البيشنت سايت. عملنا 25,000 consultations. عندنا دلوقتي بعد ما بدأنا بدكتورين بس عندنا 450 doctors. We grow about 11x في new patient numbers per month. وانا هوريكم كده حاجه بسيطه من how our platform look like. بس اشتغل. طيب خلاص عشان ما ناخدش وقت يعني I'll go معلش technical issue as always. طيب هو البلاتفورم بتاعنا من ناحيه البيشنت اتس بريتي سمبل. هو البيشنت بيخش بيدور على الدكتور اللي هو عارفه، لو عارف الدكتور بالاسم او على سبيشاليتي بيحجز معاه ابوينتمنت، ممكن يكلمه لو هو افيلبل على طول. بعدين we have a visit. The doctor after that بيكتب له report that has the diagnostics. لو عايز medications او medical labs they put it in there. وكمان دلوقتي we are working with third parties عشان يقدروا يديليفروا الحاجات دي. البيشنت مش محتاج اصلا يطلع من البيت. From the doctor perspective, الدكتور بيقدر يمانج الابوينتمنتس بتاعته، بيقدر access كل البيشنت داتا in a mini HR that we are working on that we will be expanding on in the future. بيقدر يعمل الفيزيت بعديها يدوكيومنت يوردر زي ما قلنا، وفي الاخر خالص اكتر حاجه الدكاتره بتحبها ان they can get paid right away. مشكله كبيره هنا برضه وفي حتت كتير ان البيمنت بياخد وقت كتير جدا سواء to the payer او من البيشنت، but we offer that in this plan. وبعدين نقطة مهمة جدا جدا هي security. The most important thing that everybody asks about. طب ايه؟ طب انا الداتا بتاعتي دي حد هيعرفها؟ طب ممكن حد يستخدمها ضدي؟ Everything is secure. From data at rest, data in transient, data in use, because it's very, very important to keep the patient data secure. بعدين احنا بدأنا دلوقتي بعد ما حققنا نجاح مع individual doctors نعمل deals مع more of institutions. فعندنا 2 institutions هنا في مصر و2 في الجلف اريا. عملنا deals مع شركه تيليكوم اسمها اوريدو that the users will be using our platform with discounts, and also another company called Entry Health in South Africa where they will be distributing our platform اصلا under their own brand, and we will have like a revenue model, revenue share model معاهم. فالحمد لله كل ده because we spend the right amount of time to build the right software. احنا الدكاتره اللي هنا في مصر بس they meet from us about 720,000 Egyptian pounds through this year. عملنا 5,000 ساعه consultation and وفرنا على patients about 600,000 Egyptian pounds. طبعا الارقام دي على مستوى بلد فيها 100 مليون واحد المفروض تكون لسه قليله، بس we just started, we just scratching the surface, and if this can work as we imagine هيبقى ليه هيوفر فلوس كتير جدا ممكن تروح للعيانين اللي فعلا. انا عايز اشير معاكم بقى some insights في الحاجات اللي احنا اتعلمناها السنه اللي فاتت ديت. Our biggest specialty كان السايكاتري. احنا ما كناش مستغربين قوي من الموضوع دوت لان احنا ما زلنا موضوع السايكاتري دوت in the MENA region some people are not very comfortable ان هم يروحوا ويقولوا ان احنا رايحين ندرس سايكاتري. So they can do it from their own. They can talk, they can even use anonymous names and get the right service that they need. اتعلمنا كمان ان ال females care about health more than males. That's why they live longer. طبعا عشان عندنا كمان specialties maybe tend toward females زي OB-GYN زي pediatrics. اتعلمنا ان اكتر ناس بتحب تستخدم التكنولوجي is the 21 to 40 years old sector, which makes sense. وكمان لما بدانا نبحث اكتر اكتشفنا ان معظم الناس في الرينج دوت بداوا يبقوا عندهم اما their own family or taking care of their elderly. فبيبقى مهم جدا ان هم يستخدموا حاجه زي كده عشان الموبيليتي بتاعهم تبقى صعبه. لو انت اخد طفل رايح للدكتور او your older parents take them بيبقى اسهل كتير جدا تستخدم حاجه زي كده. طيب بعد اللي احنا حكيناه دوت ايه اللي هيحصل in the future؟ We think in the future هيبقى الداتا كلها augmented بطريقه يعني موحده جدا. السنسورز بتاعتك، التيلي ميديسن تولز بتاعتك، المستشفى اللي انت بتروحها، كل حاجه on the same platform. عشان كده عشان يعني هيبقى الدور اللي احنا بنسميه precision او preventive medicine. ان احنا عارفين كويس جدا كل مريض ايه كل حاجه فيه. فساعتها الدكتور يقدر بشكل دقيق جدا يحدد او even يبريفنت اي حاجه قبل ما تحصل. وبرضه هيفتح لنا دور تاني حاجه للكونتينوس مونيتورنج اند كونتينوس انترفيرنس، ان انا بالسنسورز وثرو ذا بلاتفورم انا هبقى عارف كل حاجه عن المريض دوت في معظم الوقت. فالدكتور في اي وقت ممكن يكلمه ويقول له لا يو هاف تو دو ذات، انت عندك السكر عالي، انت عندك الضغط عالي، بليز دو ذس. طب in 10 years, in 15 years, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, videos بقى خلاص. Anyways, in 15 years, what I think بالinnovations اللي بتحصل دلوقتي في النانو بارتس which is a very small pods that can go into a syringe into your body. النانو بودز دي هتبقى جوه جسمك بتدرسك all the time, helping any bubbles. It can actually put medication into your cells. ده كمان لو في أي حد هنا interested about CRISPR اللي كسبوا نوبل برايز very soon, ممكن يعمل gene editing even to yourself لما يلاقي أي مشكلة. فده هيخلينا مش بس نبقى طول الوقت صحتنا كويسة، بس هينجيك كمان عمرنا. We follow through the data and follow through the robots. في الآخر أنا بس عايز أقول سؤال كنت دايما بتسأله من الانفسترز اللي بقعد معاهم، من الامبلويز الجداد اللي عندنا، من البارتنرز. Why this is important? Why the digital healthcare is something that we should trust? فكان إجابتي دايما إن أنا أي حد لما بينفست في حاجة through money or time بيبقوا عشان بيبريدكت ان الفيوتشر هيرجع ليهم عائد كويس عليهم. بس احنا as a company and as where we stand now, we are actually مش بنفكر في النهارده وفي بكره، احنا بنفكر في كمان 5 سنين و10 سنين و15 سنه. as the great Alan Kay said, the best way to predict the future is actually to invent it. Thank you so much. ولو حد عنده أي أسئلة. Please. طبعا هو ده سؤال جميل جدا، و the way that people are doing it هو حاجه اسمها remote monitoring. ان بيبقى فيه some devices زي مثلا stethoscope اللي بيقيس القلب، زي blood pressure monitor، زي الحاجات دي كلها، واحنا عندنا integration مع number of these devices. فالمريض اللي هو بيبقى مثلا احنا عارفين ان هو chronic او محتاج ان هو يتقاس كذا مره، بيبقى عنده الديفايسز ديت والدكتور where they are they can read the data, read the vitals، ويبقى بيديله diagnosis على سنها يعني. وبعدين برضو من الحاجات الثانيه التيلي هيلث مش هيريبليس تماما الفيزيت للدكتور، بس بدل ما انت تحتاجي تروحي للدكتور 10 مرات هتحتاجي تروحي له مره. then the follow ups or the ما دام هو شايف الدكتور ان you don't have to come, he can do it too. بس. Okay, yeah, I can use. ده سؤال عظيم جدا. هو طبعا احنا عندنا it's a marketplace، فانت عندك البيشنتس وعندك الدكتورز. البيشنتس موستلي كان اللي هو السوشيال ميديا، البيلبوردز، الجراوند، الاون جراوند سيلز. الدكتورز كان موستلي ان احنا بنحاول نلاقي ناس that we start with people that know us personally, and then we started اللي هو بيبقى عندنا بقى ايه زي smaller events. عندنا زوم ميتنج، عندنا بنجيب دكتور نبدا نتكلم معاهم وبنشرح لهم how this can be effective، وبنشرح لهم ازاي دوت ممكن يساعدهم، يوفر لهم وقت، يوفر لهم فلوس. and it worked this way.
لو مش confidential customer acquisition cost تقريبا
ممكن بقى نتكلم بعد ال بعد ال حد تاني عنده أي سؤال؟ طيب، أوكي، شكرا جزيلا. Thank you.
I'm not even a doctor, but as a patient, I can tell how important that is. Thank you so much for a great initiative and an inspiring talk. Now, as we can see, personalized healthcare is the new trend, and it's taking over the industry. Please help me welcome on stage Client Chief Officer for AXA One Health and our moderator for today, Shukri Asmar.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I am pleased to introduce my dear colleagues and speakers. My name is Shukri Asmar. I work for AXA One Health. My colleagues are sitting with you in between you. ماسك كرتون دول الكوليجز بتاعنا. Just to open. So I'm pleased to have with me today Dr. Ahmed Morsi, the head of the biomedical department in Cairo University. Please applaud. And the dear friend Mohammed Heikel, the head of the personalized healthcare chapter at Roche, and your continued experience. And I'm pleased to have you both with me. After a very inspiring session with Amber Medical, I will remove this. Easier. Can you hear me good? Everyone can hear good? Perfect. Till technology, we saw technology. We have seen in the past few months a need for everyone for a more personalized technology. We have seen that people are more aware of what they have the right to have. Healthcare awareness became much higher. And I would start with, since you have your mic already, with Dr. Heikel. I don't think it's working. I will ask you the question. Yes, perfect. So, can we please start by defining what is personalized healthcare? What is the definition of what we are talking about today?
Can you hear me now? Better now? Okay. أنا كنت بقول إن أنا I'm glad إن أنا معاكم النهاردة وإن دي my first time to Technic Summit and I'm glad that the organizer invited me to be part of this eminent summit. يعني simply personalized healthcare it's moving away from the one size fits all approach في الهيلث كير عموما وهنا لما بتكلم على الهيلث كير وانت مش بتتكلم على تريتمنت بس انت بتتكلم على تريتمنت وفيها كلمه كير فهي الفكره كلها ان انت ازاي تتعامل مع individuals even healthy individuals فازاي تموف from one size fits all لانك انت تراعي حته اليونيكنس بتاعت كل واحد فينا وكل واحد فينا ده اللي هو ياخد التيلر تريتمنت بتاعه اللي هو بيسموه كده بالبلدي ساعات اللي هو تريتمنت او انترفنشن على كارت اللي هو الفكره ان هو انت بتاخد اللي انت محتاجه بالظبط فده سيمبلي يعني هو ديزاين بالفلسفه بتاعه.
Thank you, Heikel. Dr. Morsi, if we, from the world of technology, what are the tools that can help everyone have more personalized or adequate healthcare to himself? How can a person knows his own data? How can a person or a doctor serve each person on its own, on his own?
سؤال جميل جدا هو ممكن أتكلم بالعربي. Anyone here who does not understand Arabic? Okay, so I have to stick to English. If we want to move away from the one-size-fits-all model to a more precise model and eventually to a personalized model, I think we will notice that some fronts lend themselves well, more than other fronts. So to answer your question, I want to start with the chronic disease management, for example. So chronic disease management, particularly with the prevalence of Internet of Things, which we call Internet of Medical Things, just to personalize it to healthcare. Tons of data. We collect tons of data every day. And it's becoming impossible for humans to be able to analyze this data accurately. So we really need technology to be able to analyze the data, come up with conclusions, and then come up with decisions how to intervene based on this conclusion. Chronic disease management is a great example, but another example, I can talk more about these areas later as the discussion evolves, omics-driven precision. So starting from something as serious as optimizing cancer therapy using pharmacogenomics, down to how to tailor the diet of a person using nutrigenomics and so many milestones in between. So that's another area where technology actually can help. A third area is artificial intelligence, and everybody today is talking about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, we're just scratching the surface today in terms of artificial intelligence. But again, because we have a lot of data, AI can help us analyze that much data. But I'll give a different example. For example, people who go to the ICU and get put on a ventilator. There's something called weaning from the ventilator. When the time is right to take the person off the ventilator. If we take them off earlier, that's not good. And if we take them off later than what we should, that's not good either, because it can cause damage to the lung tissue. So this weaning, statisticians try to come up with models based on statistics and data available, but models based on artificial intelligence proved much more accurate. So that's another intervention in technology in the area of AI.
If I can stay with you, Dr. Murthy, and on the three examples you've said, and we have in the room, I think, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of investors, what are the fields that, or the gaps that we have still actually in the market in Egypt, where entrepreneur or startups or investor can look for entrepreneur or startups to invest and research more and to solve the pain points that we still have in these three fields you mentioned?
That's another wonderful question. The opportunities in general are related to many areas, in fact. But for me, I see upskilling is a major area. Upskilling means to help a doctor with only 4 years of experience appear as if they had 14 years of experience or 15 years of experience. That's upskilling. Error reduction, particularly in dosing, for example, related to precision medicine. Error reduction, I don't know if you know about the report that was issued almost 10 years ago in the United States. It was called "To Err is Human." And it said that 100,000 deaths occur every year because of preventable medical errors. Not because of medical errors, because of preventable medical errors. And later they said, no, it's 400,000 patients. So that's like how many? 200 airplanes crashing, and everyone on board dies every year. If this happens, the aviation industry would have been shut down. This happens every year, and the aviation industry does not get shut down. So error reduction is another area, and scaling up, making healthcare accessible, and accessible in a more personalized way is the third area.
On that point, on the accessibility and the personalized approach, I would come to you, Heikel, and we had this discussion a lot on maybe on chronic disease management and diabetes management. Being responsible for the client side and in the organization I work for, Axon Health, I always think of the pain points that the customer face and how we can solve it to them. With the work you are doing, and you're doing a lot actually at Roche, what are the pain points you are trying to solve for the patients in general, and for the awareness of the problem they might solve with more personalized healthcare? So it's the pain points, and maybe they are not aware that they are in a pain point and they can get better things. So.
Okay, thank you, Shukri. Well, actually, this drive my answer to mainly to the challenges اللي هو the healthcare system now faces. First of all, the major challenge the healthcare system faces النهارده هو limited resources. أقوى healthcare system في العالم, the strongest, has limited resources. ليه؟ عشان في increasing demands بتحصل من patients. The patients are more aware now. The patients are more educated. The patients have access to a lot of information. فالنهارده الديماندز دي خلت في strains جامده قوي على الهيلث كير سيستم. دي one of the challenges that الهيلث كير سيستم بيفيس. حاجه ثانيه من الهيلث كير سيستم بيفيس ان هو انت النهارده الجروينج بوبيليشن اللي قاعده تزيد دلوقتي على الهيلث كير سيستم. الجروينج بوبيليشن احنا بنهايه القرن ال 21 ده احنا we're expecting ان احنا نريتش 11 بليون. انت الايجنج بوبيليشن اللي هي الايج اللي هو فوق ال 65 اللي هم بيضغطوا على الهيلث كير سيستم، اكتر ناس بيضغطوا على الهيلث كير سيستم. expected ان احنا في ال 30 سنه الجايين ان احنا نوصل ل 60% من التوتال بوبيليشن above 65 years. فدي ارقام كبيره قوي. احنا النهارده 9%، النهارده 9% above 65. فدي these really big numbers. الكرونيك diseases like cancer الانسيدنس اوف كانسر في ال 20 سنه الجايه it will increase by 60%. ف all these challenges put strains on the healthcare system. وهنا انا ما اتكلمتش على البانديميك وازاي دي حاجه جديده حصلت from nowhere وبعد كده الحته دي عملت سترين اكتر كمان على الهيلث كير. ف all this يعني هو ريكواير ان هو يبقى فيه profound transformation powered بالديجيتال تكنولوجي في حته الهيلث كير. ف this is how we see the major pain point في الهيلث كير من ناحيه الهيلث كير سيستم ومن ناحيه الحكومه بتواجه الموضوع ده ازاي. another things حتى في هنا لما بنتكلم على الاندستري، انا بشتغل هنا في شركه روش، فانا هكلمك على الفارما اندستري كمان. الفارما اندستري انت النهارده عشان تطلع one molecule to the market انت this is a too lengthy and costly process. يعني this is a really costly and lengthy process. يعني انتوا عارفين ان هو عشان يطلع دواء واحد في السوق تقريبا في الانفستمنت تقريبا بتبقى 10 مليون دولار almost. انا بدي average numbers. وورست تايم ستادي اوف داتا احنا بنتكلم في around 8 years. ليه؟ عشان احنا معتمدين على الكلينيكال ترايلز اللي هو الكلينيكال ترايلز اللي هي بتبقى ليها، عارفين انتوا الفيز 1 فيز 2 اللي عارف اللي هو عنده هيلث باك جراوند عارف الحته دي. النهارده الحته دي محتاجه تروح دلوقتي الدايركشن ان احنا لا نعتمد على ريل وورد داتا، نعتمد على اللي بيحصل النهارده اون ذا جراوند، ابعد عن الكلينيكال ترايلز او مش ابعد كومبلمنت الكلينيكال ترايل اللي هو ده بشكل احسن. فده برضه بيحط تشالنج على الاندستري انك انت النهارده ادويتك جايه غاليه وهيلث كير سيستم اصلا بيسفر اصلا من الدماغ الزياده. لو بصيت برضه الاسبكت بقى لو احنا بنتكلم على الدكاتره، النهارده الدكاتره اللي هم بياخدوا قرارات في العلاج بالنسبه للعيانين، الدكاتره النهارده they are really struggling with the amount of data they are receiving. يعني انت النهارده الداتا كلها اللي بتيجي للدكتور هو مش عارف يهضمها اصلا. يعني الداتا دي يعني you know something في يعني في statistics بتقول ان الميديكال داتا بتدبل كل 73 يوم. يعني كل 73 يوم الميديكال داتا اللي موجوده بتدبل. يعني هوز مايند هو كان توليريت كل ده. فانت النهارده حته الارتفيشال انتليجنس والداتا اناليسيس وازاي ان انت يبقى عندك كلينيكال ديسيجن سبورت بتساعد الدكتور، دي حاجه بقت مهمه جدا. فذيس از از ويل ده بوت ان هو انت النهارده لو حطيت كل التشالنجز دي، انا اتكلمت على الهيلث كير سيستم، اتكلمت على الاندستري، اتكلمت على الفيزيشن، انت لو فضلنا ماشيين زي ما احنا كده this is unsustainable. فهو الديجيتال تكنولوجي از سولوشن، هو مش ده اوبشن. يعني الديجيتال تكنولوجي وبيرسونلايزنج هيلث كير this is the solution عشان بعد كده تاخد قرارات. القرارات دي تقدر بيها انك انت مش بس تكريت هيلث population، لا هو الموضوع ان انت كمان انت you will make right decisions for using the funds efficiently، فبالتالي هتعمل كمان lower cost at the society. ف this is how we see the يعني the pain points will open the solution for the personalized healthcare for it.
ثانك يو هيكل. يمكن اضيف حتتين. احنا من اول ما جينا الماركت بننقل من being only an insurer to also a healthcare provider, two of the main things we are trying to work on related to the personalization of healthcare is to create awareness for the patient that his data is his right. His data is owned by him. His data is, he can access it anytime. He can have the understanding of the transparency to understand his data. This is one thing that is really important, and I see here my colleague from the medical department, and their challenge is to train the doctor to communicate that where doctors are thinking that they own the data and they don't share it with the patient. But the personalization is a work that we are trying to do on both sides, from a patient awareness perspective and from a doctor's transparency perspective, to create this more using the data and the wealth of data that the doctor receives into personalizing the treatment or personalizing the approach to the patient, and vice versa, the patient to know and understand and see that he is different and he is special, and that his case required one, or his case required two, or his case required three. Doctor, in the biomedical engineering department, how the student can understand to help doctor on this approach for transparency, how this approach for transparency of personalization is induced into the curriculum in universities?
It's a great question. We have many problems with the concept of data, and we try to teach students that this is the artificial intelligence era, AI, and AI lives and feeds on data. So without data, we will not have AI. And again, back to the personalization and precision point, you need to have local data for local populations and regional populations in order to make sure that any AI algorithms, algorithmic assets, actually will work just as well on local populations and local data. And they learn about the challenges. I actually teach healthcare information systems, and in that aspect in particular, I teach them about the challenges of dealing with data. So almost everyone today says data is the new oil. Data is the new oil, yes, but unextracted oil has no value.
Not organized oil has no value.
Exactly. And also look at the price difference between the crude oil and the processed, the refined oil. So it's important. We have tons of data living inside us. We have tons of data not being shared, not being compiled, not being collected. We don't have data assets here, healthcare data assets, which represent our population. That's very important. So students start learning about all these issues surrounding the data.
Thank you, Doctor. Heike, let me ask you a question where I am in question in it as a provider. As a pharma company, you see the whole spectrum from the new graduates that comes out of universities. You see the providers, you see the pharmacies. And you see the doctors, the big providers, the hospital chains, the clinic chains, and you see the whole spectrum to try to, and you see the payers, the insurance companies, that are always accept and then not do anything. And what do you see this crowd of investors and entrepreneurs can help filling the gaps between all this ecosystem to make sure that this personalization of healthcare from you as one of the players as a pharma company can induce this ecosystem to have one cycle so things bring to a result? I see a lot that a lot of pharma companies are trying to launch something, providers trying to launch something else, insurers trying to do something on CR level, corporate relation, the universities and the curriculums are trying to adopt what's new, but the whole ecosystem is not sealed together. What, in your opinion, can solve that?
I hope you help me as well in the answer of this, because one of the objectives of attending such meetings is to make these type of networks with people who share the same vision, so that we can work together and achieve this together. So as a beginning, you know, Roche is the biggest biotech company in the world, and although this is not a one company mission. This is not a one company mission that can do this. No one company can create this data-driven healthcare system. It requires this type of collaboration between the full innovation ecosystem and the pharma ecosystem and the industry tech ecosystem. So this is not like a one solo player goal, or being even in the center. We need to all understand that we are putting the patient in the center and we are all around them. Not Roche, for example, in the center and we are around the, no, it's patient in the center and AXA around the center. Academia is around the patient as well, and that's one. So working together, finding innovative solutions, startups. Startups are very famous for being these speedboats, that they can go for innovative solutions and find fast solutions. We are, as big ships, and the corporates, slow to achieve it. So we need to work with startups on this. We need to help them, we help the startups to grow in their business. We need to adjust our procurement process, make ourselves reachable for them. So this is how we see it. We need to make this type of, all these type of coalition to achieve this mission. This is my, I'm trying to improvise here, but this is my high level answer for this.
Let me emphasize on 2 points you mentioned. Customer in the center. So if I want to create like a collage between all the different stakeholders, the center needs to be the customer and I need to solve their pain points. You said something else regarding startup and accessibility to corporate and to academia, and it's I can say that we realize that we, as big corporates, we cannot operate on these new innovations without having startup pulling us, because we are like big bears walking, and the innovation can only happen with agility and people that solve a certain pain point. They propose it to big corporate, we can propose to client base, we can propose the expertise to achieve this success, as the person was asking about data and in the previous session that no access to data, so we cannot try. So this is what corporate can give, to access to a sample of data, so we can prove concept and then move to solving the patient pain points. Doctor, do you want to add something on this collage?
I want to add that spotting synergies is probably the first step. Yes, patient, customer must be in the center, and we're lucky because the definition of customer has changed. It used to be patient, and now it's patient and consumer. And the ratio of patients to consumers is really huge. That's a huge opportunity for everyone. So spotting synergies, these can turn into opportunities for collaboration. Another thing is, it's a little bit easier to collect data to do research than to collect data to do commercial activities. So maybe this can smooth out the process. Let's start collecting data to do some research. And then it might be easier for all of us to collaborate, cooperate, and then take it to the next step, the commercial.
Another question I have is regarding to launch activities for personalization of healthcare or precision healthcare. Always it's nice initiatives, and it doesn't, out of experience regretfully, it doesn't lead to anything because it's not sustainable. It doesn't create sustainability from who will pay, who will provide. Is it a one action for a campaign of 3-4 months, or it's a sustainable thing? How can we, and we have been in this circle I think for the last 3-4 years, between pharma company, insurance company, providers, it's in this circle, we launch bursts of specific personalization of healthcare, awareness approach, but it's never sustainable. This is something we're trying to crack, but I would love to hear both of you on how to crack the sustainability of launching something like this, from the financials of it, from the customer to understand it, etc.
The first step is almost to try to show value. If you can show value, demonstrate value, then you are on the right track for sustainability. Sometimes the real value is not the first step, actually. Sometimes you need to combine it with something else that makes commercial value, or maybe a PR value, or something like that. So bundling might be in this case. And I think back to you.
Yeah, actually showing value, this is the really important thing, as well as showing early experiments. So if we have this type of experiment that is successful in one place, you can showcase this experiment. This help in more than awareness. كده انت تقدر تساعد في حته انك انت you are not speaking about an idea, you are speaking about the real thing happening on the ground in a certain place. So early experiments as well, I would add it to the showing the value. This will be good.
I love this point because showing an expertise or in a market or in a small sample that this worked, that this created value, created saving maybe, created better decision making for doctors, better understanding of my case for people, more awareness. So showing an example is the solution we are talking about for long, but to reach that point is the challenging part. I would love to have 15 minutes and open the floor for questions. So please. Can someone, لو سمحت في حد ممكن ادي المايك تاني.
Thank you everyone for the great discussions here. هو الموضوع is very complicated and very sophisticated from different angles. My name is Mohammed Azam. I'm working in digital transformation area actually. هو الحقيقة احنا محتاجين ان احنا نبني واتس الديجيتال تراست. والديجيتال تراست مش هيجي غير بالفاليو وان انا تبقى very easy to use. Going things complicated الامور من health system خصوصا لان I believe ان the pharmaceutical industry او ال healthcare system خلينا نقول will lead the next wave of innovation because of COVID. هي COVID غير لنا حاجات كثيره جدا. فاحنا محتاجين to build this ecosystem من احنا we shouldn't think of the new inflection point from the same old perspective. It wouldn't work. يعني I can assure you. فاحنا we need to reinvent everything in the digital format. Actually everything. From the research, from the commercialization, from the medical trial, from كل حاجة يعني from the health scale insurance system. فإن الأمور اختلفت حقيقة جدا. I think this is one of the most important lessons learned from COVID. إن احنا we were working in silos and we've been يعني the pandemic hit us a lot and يعني give us a warning signal that يعني we haven't experienced this in a century. That's why we, يعني I can see all the pillars here on the stage, which is يعني all this, most of the stakeholders. فاحنا back to حتى even ما هيك كان بيتكلم على حته الستارت ابس. احنا we are creating more fragile instrument in the market. They go to the market and they die and disappear. فاحنا we need to help them to understand that entrepreneurship is not the objective by itself. We need to turn their mindset to become not entrepreneurs, to become business people, dealing with suppliers, dealing with customers, dealing with finance. فكرة entrepreneurship has been promoted for a very long time. And I think it's becoming يعني one of the time bombs that we are facing now and in the near future. وكان في حاجه كمان هي الورد هيلث اورجانيزيشن عشان الموضوع فيري سوفيستيكيتد عشان نيو ستاندردز خصوصا ان كوفيد بوش اس ا لوت ان احنا تو تيك ميجر ماسيف يعني ستيبس توردز هافينج طبعا. فعشان كده في النهارده الورد هيلث اورجانيزيشن تراينج تو سيت نيو ستاندردز عشان انا هنا بتكلم على الاريا بتاعت الهيلث سايد فيري كريتيكال عشان انا بتكلم على حياه بني ادمين. I'm not developed a nice app on the internet or on Google Play or Apple Store. هي الفكرة دي لا هي has to be regulated بس regulated in a different format. regulated from the concept that we are living in a digital era, that we are connected and we don't have any option other working together. هي يعني otherwise احنا يعني ان احنا we're still in the middle of the crisis. It's not over. The social impact is not calculated yet. The economic impact is not calculated yet. فاحنا still in the middle of the disaster. فهي it's time to reconsider everything and I mean everything. Sorry being long هي بس متوزع.
Just to emphasize on a few points, you mentioned that COVID pushed that healthcare would lead innovation. Intuitive, or if I use other words from what you said, intuition, doctor friendliness, user friendliness of what we are using, and to bring an easy approach or accessibility. This is what. Yes. To make it easy so it can move on. A new approach that is easy, accessible, and without worry. Any comments before we take any question? Please.
مساء الخير يا وان. سؤالي موجه لحضرتك يا دكتور. يعني حضرتك قلت نقطتين that are very interesting for me. النقطة الأولانية how to quantum leap young MDs with 3 or 4 years of experience عشان يبقوا عندهم يعني أو لكن عندهم 10 or 15 years of experience. Can you elaborate on that point? دي أول سؤال. السؤال الثاني حضرتك you differentiate between the consumer and the patient. برضه أحب أعرف الفرق من وجهة نظر حضرتك ما بين the consumer and the patient.
Sure. Very quickly, I'll give one example to answer the first question. For example, computer-aided diagnosis. It is not supposed, a computer-aided diagnosis solution is not supposed to replace doctor, but to augment, to help the doctor, particularly when they get tired at the end of the day and when they're about to make an error for one reason or another, and when they're still young and inexperienced. So computer-aided diagnosis, and I guess one thing I would like to say about replacing doctors, the question, will AI replace doctors? The best answer I heard is no, but doctors who use AI will replace those who don't. So very quickly, let's go for the first question. The second question, when we include wellness to illness, then a person who wants to make sure that they stay healthy, we cannot call them patients, right? I find it actually depressing to call that person a patient. So, but I can call them healthcare consumers, and then the circle gets much, much bigger. Yes, health conscious people. And it also includes prevention, for example.
The holistic approach to health.
Screening. We don't screen for patients, we screen everybody, ideally. So these are healthcare consumers, not patients.
And we're trying to emphasize this in the healthcare industry. In our company, the department I work with my colleagues is called the client department. It's not the patient department. So it's all about how to create a holistic approach to health from people when they are well, when they are sick, when they have a chronic disease, or to hold a healthy lifestyle during their whole life. And another point, when somebody he comes with somebody else, so all of them are customers. Maybe a mom comes with her son who's sick, or a son comes with his mom who's sick. So they are all customers. Maybe they are not sick, but they are customers of this ecosystem, and they need to be treated with transparency, with care, with compassion in the whole ecosystem, whether they are the sick person or not. That is Dr. Nian.
I have just a small remark about the expression of consumers. I would like to put it into discussion when the colleague said we need to create an environment of trust, and when I look at it from the patient's or from the people's perspective, consumer, I relate with capitalism. I'm sorry if I say this. So I would like to have it customer. I think it's a better definition because consumption comes with capitalism, comes with business, and I want to get money out of your pocket. So I think to create that culture of trust, we have to be cautious about what definitions we take. Just
Very good, Mark. Thank you.
So customer or client, no more consumers. We want people to consume less health and be healthy.
Actually, I just wanted to comment on one point that you mentioned. I believe that the early entry point for startups to be able to get over this and to be able to collaborate together and help each other is the physician's mindset. So maybe this is a point for you, Dr. Morsi, to clarify. Is the physicians, they always compete about the data. They believe that they own the data, and there is a problem to get the data out of their office. So basically, whenever you have an approach, all the startups, they're doing their best, working 24/7, and then the startup, it dies. So basically, you give them an automated system, user simplicity, for free, whatever you do. And then you go and you approach people, physicians I'm speaking. So basically everyone, they refuse to share the data. This is my data, and they never refer to the patient as the owners of the data. So I believe the thing which might be another opportunity for startups to work in is changing the mindset of the physicians themselves. Is that whenever you give out the data, you build up the AI where you can get upskilled. So this is maybe something that we can work on, a model where you can convince the physicians that sharing data is the entry point for this. We can never change the healthcare system if everyone is resistant. So I don't know, man. Maybe another point that Shukri mentioned is the loop. Everything is there, but everything is fragmented. You can never get everything in one place. So I believe it's just a mindset. So if we need to think about how can we collaborate, maybe the joint forces of all the stakeholders in this room, you can convince the doctors or change the mindset that sharing is the entry point. So that's it. Thank you.
Very good point. Sharing and transparency. And in my opinion, when customer will push about having their data, while customer will push on having interoperability. I go to this doctor and I take my data that I own, my medical data, and go to another doctor. This is where doctor will have to abide by this. Do you want to comment on this point? We discussed it a lot in the past.
Yes, actually we're discussing this in the back, me and Shukri, about the data and how physicians usually stick to having the data for themselves. So ultimately what we want is like, we have this type of a digital loop of sharing data between the what's happening on the real ground and what's happening in the research. So consider this a loop. What's happening on the real ground is feeding the research, and the research is feeding what's happening on the real ground with the new molecules and other stuff. So this is the ultimate objective. So to achieve this transparency for data, digital trust should be in place.
Something. Yeah, but when it's owned by the person himself, this is the key. And something we have been saying for the last 4 years in Techni Summit. I remember the first session I attended as a participant in Techni Summit, or as a speaker. It was about data and how we can share data. And the key word is interoperability. And we're still, as now being a provider, being a pharma, being another provider, we cannot communicate data to each other. We are afraid to communicate data to each other. So we need this link. We need that somebody comes and tell me, if the patient approves, I will give you the link to communicate to another hospital. For example, we are doing primary and secondary care. At a certain point, the patient will require a referral to a hospital to do an operation. How can I share this file of the customer to this hospital, and this hospital to read it and get the data, and the client to be the star in the middle, and he doesn't feel that he needs to carry a lot of things with him. This interoperability, we're always working on it, but we didn't crack it yet in Egypt and in many, many markets. I remember Estonia, it's the country where they solved this data interoperability between all the providers of Estonia. And it's a government initiative. Now, the government is trying with the national healthcare system, but we need, as startups, as private provider, as pharma company, as academia, to push on this interoperability, that the data is the ownership of the patient and not the ownership of the provider or whoever write it. Any other question? We have 2 minutes left. Yes? Tomasz.
Doctor, you said doctors who use AI will replace who will not use AI. That means every doctor has to learn artificial intelligence and programming, Python and so on, or just know how to use it and adapting with it?
Well, learn just enough to be able to operate the technology efficiently. Learn just enough to be able to avoid any legal issues with the technology. So they will not be required to build machine learning models themselves. But one of the problems, interestingly, with the slow adoption of AI is explainability. So we have a model, and then it says it's 90% cancer. Why? How? Where did that come from? Explainability is a huge problem, and it will not be solved by computer scientists alone, engineers alone. I think doctors will have to participate in solving this explainability problem. Otherwise, the field will take a very long time to take off.
One last question.
Thank you, Shukri. Hello, my name is Hussein Matar. I'm the Chief Medical Officer of Axon Health. So getting back to your comments about the doctors who are using artificial intelligence will replace ones who don't use it, we have, I think, a very big example that we are now living in, which is Netflix replacing the other entertainment networks, because Netflix have managed to reach this level of using artificial intelligence, managing the data. I think all of us know that the TV show Mawara Tabi'a Paranormal is deemed to be a hit even before released, because they used the artificial intelligence to understand what is the customer need in this region, in Egypt specifically, and they have engineered a product that address the needs of the customers. So they have collected all the data from the customers based in the region, and this is how they reached this one. Before, I think Netflix, the TV producers used to do a pilot to test it before. Netflix doesn't do that. They release the full season. They produce the full season and they release the full season because they use artificial intelligence in every production they make. So the same can apply to healthcare as well. In the topic that we are discussing now, which is personalized healthcare. So we are depending on the government to do a lot of initiatives and collaboration in this part to achieve this maturity. However, Netflix is not a governmental institute. They have utilized the data that they have collected properly, and they have produced a very efficient and a very successful product in that regard. So my question to Dr. Haker and Roche, you already have a lot of data. It's not, I know, all structured and all, in a structured manner. However, how can we use the data that we already collect, the pharmaceuticals specifically, because you have a huge pool of data? How do you utilize this data in the form of providing a personalized healthcare in the areas that you cover in Roche? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Actually, it will take me to dig deeper a little bit in what's happening in the pharma. I'm not sure we have this time, but I'll try to answer it very briefly. In pharma, we have a big amount of data, actually, yes. But if we are speaking about our vision of the amount of data that we really want to achieve, we are still in the baby steps, in the stone age of data collection, even for the pharma. Because we are depending on the data mainly on the clinical trials. What we are missing a lot is what's happening on the real ground. This what we are not missing. We're missing. So in Roche, if I'm speaking about Roche specifically, we are now seeking a lot of alliances and acquisitions with data companies that work on the real world data, companies that work on collecting market insights like genomic profiling data, omics. So, and we are depending on these companies in our research to develop better innovation for the treatment. So we are in the start for data because we have a lot of data, yes, but in clinical trial, but we are seeking to have more data from the real world practice and what's happening on the real ground. So I'm just highlighting بس كده حاجة خفيفة كده.
Yeah, if I may comment quickly on that, thank you. So for the entrepreneurs in the house, please take a closer look at a standard called FHIR, F-H-I-R, because this is the upcoming standard that will solve data interoperability, and this can represent a great opportunity for you as an entrepreneur. Also for researchers, also for policymakers, and building data assets is a great opportunity. Dr. Hickel said that they are actually reaching out to companies that are building data assets, and also building algorithmic assets to analyze those data. So if you are looking for an area, if you are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur and looking for a viable area, real-world evidence based on real-world data, based on the Internet of Medical Things and Devices is a great area. So again, please take a closer look at it. Just a piece of advice.
And to back your point up, we have been using FHIR to connect with interoperability with the lab results, for example, to come to the doctor and to the patient. We have been using Segment for understanding the customer needs, so we can communicate content right to a diabetes person to communicate content on diabetes,
yes.
A mother to communicate content on children and what she should expect. So things like that are very important for people to feel they are talking to. You talked about Netflix, but the examples of Instagram or Facebook, they simply understand what you are expecting and what is your zone. And we need to use this in healthcare so people can be more aware, be more trusting, be more intuitive into selecting certain things. Not from a consumer perspective to push things, but to give more data to customers.
Customer, not consumer.
Yeah, consumer
is bad.
You don't want to push them to consume, but to give customer. So, Dr. Mercy and Heikel, I really thank you for this quick panel. I think the session after this one is cancelled, so we have a break till 4:20? 4:20, okay. So please be there. There are really exciting sessions at 4:20 to 5:30. Thank you.